I wanted to bring us back for a Q&A with Jeff Peterson, our keynote speaker. He brought some great points, so I want to talk to him a little bit more about his presentation. Jeff, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me out here.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back. In your presentation, you talked about what do you want to be when you grow up. That's what we're here for today.
Absolutely.
You talked about experiences. What type of experience should students look for when they are exploring their careers?
So I think that's one of the toughest parts about trying to figure everything out. I think when a student is looking at all of the different jobs that are out there and they don't know enough about them to figure out should they go try it or shouldn't they try it. I think it's quick and easy to start with people that you know, talk to your teacher, talk to your guidance counselor, talk to your family, friends of the family, and find out what they're doing, because that's the quick and easy way for you to get those experiences in those different careers. And I think once a student starts to kind of branch out and see and try those different things, they start looking at everything differently. So when they're driving by a business, around their community, and they start asking those questions, so what kind of jobs are in there? What does that company do? And I think just having them start within their comfort zone circle is the quick and easy route, because it's hard for me to sit there and say, make sure you go out and you find somebody to shadow that is in the medical field, or a lawyer, or somebody that's in sales, or a teacher. I think it's more figure out your own circle, get comfortable with how you're exploring and what that experience means to you, and then I think naturally they'll start to branch off into different things that they want to.
So, and Jeff, you talked about the sampling piece, and in your presentation you talked about exploring careers is like fast food.
Yep.
I found that as a great analogy and kind of bringing in some things on that point. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
So I think it's crazy that as we were, like our parents, when we were infants, they were so specific on the types of food as they were kind of giving it to us as we were getting older, and what they thought our body could tolerate, and what the doctors said, okay, now you can introduce this. And then, like you said, when it comes down to fast food, we start taking over our own choices and decisions on what we actually want to go out and try for ourselves and experience. And I think it's crazy that we don't look at what we want to do with our lives in the same exact way. Our parents in today's world need to start helping the kids experience and explore and get exposure to the different types of jobs that are out there when they're trying to make a decision on whether they're going to college, whether they're not. If they don't, what type of jobs are available to high school graduates. And I think it's important for us to start to implement some of that basic thinking we do every single day when it comes to our food decisions. When that's a basic decision and we give it more thought and care than we do about exposure to our own career opportunities and those decisions that go with it.
So, Jeff, the next question I wanted to ask you is, you talked about what is career exploration and when should I start? You talked about the chance to ask questions and build yourself up through your jobs. So kind of what I'm going to in your presentation, you talked about specifically, some people think like, oh, I'm just sweeping the floors for this company, or I'm just doing this. And you said it's not just a job. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
I say it to students all the time. They're like, I work at this fast food restaurant. I'm just flipping burgers. I've got to make money, so that's what I'm doing. I want to find something else that is more meaningful. And I always say every single job, every experience is as meaningful as you want to make it. Because when you're at that fast food restaurant, there's so many aspects of business and careers that are within that organization that if they have the time to talk to a store manager of, so what made you decide to be a store manager in the fast food industry? Or that customer service piece of understanding the personalities and the challenges of customer service. If you didn't put the fries in that bag, still being able to keep a good experience for that customer and the need for that. And even to the point of understanding the flow of the business and the timeliness of tasks that you have to complete. And just sometimes just showing up on time and understanding that responsibility. So every job, every role that you do, somebody's counting on you, and it's not just your boss that is signing your paycheck, but it could be a customer, it could be somebody in the community. So you have to care about everything you do, and I think every one of those jobs that we have the opportunity to take, or it fits into our schedule, we can turn into a positive experience, or at least a learning experience. You don't have to love flipping burgers in a fast food restaurant, but if you're going to do it and it fits into your schedule and that's how you're going to make money, take that time and experience and get something out of it that you can value and grow from.
I love that. And you start to get into now career explorations, but then also our mindset and what we start looking at for next steps. And I think that fits in key exactly with how do you better prepare yourself. And I really like what you just said there too, is flipping burgers isn't just flipping burgers, but how can you learn? So not always work for the money, but work to learn too. And I think that could really help our students out in next steps of what they do.
Absolutely.
Jeff, in your presentation, the next point you talked about is put everything into what you do. So you said, and we see students a lot of times will say, you know what, this class doesn't pertain to my future, so I don't care as much about that. And you said if you're there, put everything into it that you got to do. Can you elaborate a little more on that and the importance of that?
I think it's something that, again, when I talk to even people that work with me at my company, those times that you're just doing what people would consider just a task. You've got to do it. It's not what I'm paid to do, but I have to do it. It's part of my job. I'm not getting anything out of it. The same thing kind of comes when students are getting bored with the process and feeling as though they want to start getting to that next step in their life and things are getting in their way and slowing them down. And I often say part of high school and college isn't necessarily about the degree aspect. Part of it is just learning how to learn from everything that you do. And there's no way to actually be successful and learn how to learn unless you're putting everything into that time and effort that you're doing it. If you're taking a class that you don't think you're going to need, it should come off very easy to you. You should put that effort in to find out exactly how much do you understand it and what's complicated and challenging in that class. Why aren't you going to need that in your future? What would that class fit for somebody else for their future? And I think it's a mistake for any of us at any time in our lives to think we know exactly what we're going to be when we do grow up, because I say it all the time where you're not going to retire from your first job. Even if you're a teacher, the chances of you staying at the exact same school that you start in, and you might move and change and grow. You might be teaching classes at one school that you never taught at another school. All of a sudden they might create a business class, and you've got a teacher that was never in business, but now they're responsible for teaching business. So that teacher might have been in high school saying, I'm never going to teach business. I'm going to be an English teacher. So why should I pay attention in this business class? You just don't know exactly what everything is going to be. And it's like networking with people. You don't know who's going to be important and who you're going to be able to lean on and learn from. So it's important to really focus. If you're going to do it and you have to do it and you're there in the moment, put everything you've got into it.
Yeah, and I would say too, just listen to you talk, because you talk about the attitude of I don't need this right now. I've always said attitudes are contagious, and if you start to try to compartmentalize what's important and not important to you, eventually everything becomes unimportant.
Right.
Even the stuff you love. So I like where you're at. Learn from it. Do it. You never know what it's going to be at too. So I definitely love that highlight of that portion of your speech.
Awesome.
One of the things you talked about was Ask Now, and this had to do with networking and talking to individuals such as yourself.
Yep.
So co-founder of Geneva Supply Company, Interstate Music, creator of BizTang, amazing facility that we're at here today. So one thing I know we've talked about is people such as yourself who are successful are willing to talk to the youth to help guide them and grow. Yep. And you, in your presentation, you said, make sure you're asking now when they're young. Can you elaborate a little more on that and why?
It's one of those things where if I start to reach out to people on LinkedIn at my age, at my level of career, where I'm at, people start to question what my agenda is, what my purpose is. Am I trying to get information or the way they're doing things to benefit myself and compete with them? It gets competitive once you start getting into your own career, and people start to get really protective of their own knowledge. And they feel as though they went through their experiences and they put their hard time and effort into it, and maybe their hard-earned money into the education of what they're doing, and they don't want to just give it away for free just because somebody's asking it. That's how competitive it gets once everybody starts into their career. But when you've got high school and college-age students that they don't feel at risk of sharing information, they actually feel as though they're being asked to help guide and mentor and advise a student-aged kid, because it doesn't feel the same way. So I say all the time, definitely go out there, and every question you could possibly ask somebody that's in a career that you're interested in, now is the time to ask, because it's so authentic. There's no challenge in the way that you're doing it. You're not asking them to break their code of silence on how they got where they are. It's a lot more of a nurturing, helping somebody mature and help them make those next steps. So I now is the time where it's so much easier to get those answers and get that networking and that kind of almost lifelong partnership of building that relationship of somebody that you can go back to. Because if you build that relationship now in communicating, that person's never going to look at you as somebody that's asking for a different kind of reason. They're always going to trust you. So build that trust and that relationship and start asking those questions now.
And Jeff, I have to thank you for that, and people like you that are successful, willing to have those conversations with our students to help guide them and mentor them. I know it's very important. We talked on stage earlier today when we were just sitting here. Sometimes myself and other staff members that have been with the students for 3, 4, 5 years, they hear us over and over again, and sometimes it falls on deaf ears. So I know those conversations are super important for our kids and families.
Well, and I think that is the business society or the career society, that it's our responsibility, because the future of filling positions for our own companies are high school and college students. And if we're not doing anything to help them figure things out or give them that exposure and experience that they need to make their own decisions and possibly take a path of education that will help get them to where we are, it's not okay for us to say, boy, I'll tell you what, there's just nobody out there, that's worth hiring. And it's up to us to help nurture our communities and our students and our youth to get them that experience and that exposure, because we are going to benefit from that as businesses. So I never understand, you're not allowed to complain about not having great candidates for a job or for the roles that are open at your company if you're not doing anything to reach out and help kids in your community get that exposure to who you are or every other business that's out there, because that's truly what's going to happen. Because as soon as a kid goes to college or doesn't, the first place they're going to look for getting their first job is back home. It's going to be in their community. And if they don't know what every company does, that's every company's fault for not taking that time and having that opportunity.
That's a great point. We definitely want our kids and our top talent to come back to our states.
Absolutely.
I want to make one plug to our students and our families. Our Connect Academy's vision is bridging the gap K-12 educational systems to business partners in industry. Utilize our connections with business partners like Jeff to ask those questions. We have a lot of individuals that are willing to talk to you, but you have to find the information and you have to ask the questions. Okay, Jeff, one of the topics that you came up is very, very interesting and almost controversial to a message that we preach in education.
Yep.
And you said you are what they think you are. And to the point where when I listen to your messages, industry and business partners and people in society are going to judge a book by its cover. Can you talk a little bit more about that to our students?
It is controversial because, and sometimes I get nervous in today's society saying certain things. And this is one of those things where it can go both ways, and I understand that, but there has to be a little bit of a reality check of the first impression concept and also what businesses are looking for and how they determine who they're actually going to hire and invest their company's dollars into training and getting up to speed and have them represent their company. So part of it truly is caring and paying attention to how you put yourself out there, whether it's social media, whether it's the way you do one thing, the way you communicate. I hate to say the way you dress or the way you this, because there's a lot of reasons for all of that. But I will say, as individuals, we are responsible for all of those very individual decisions. So it is going to help you get further, or in some cases, hinder you from getting further. And that's just truth. It's not just, you can be a 4.0 student, and if you come off that you don't care and you're kind of not paying attention, you're a little bit aloof in an interview, or I know it all, this and that, you can be the smartest kid in that interview, and you might not get that job. Communication skills are going to matter. Fitting into a company is going to matter. It's not just about the education and the skill sets. It is sometimes just who you are as a person and how you portray yourself. And when it comes to social media and kind of giving that image out there, businesses are going to research and check into who everybody is, because that investment is real. You know, to hire people and pay starting wages, you know, $35,000 to $65,000, sometimes more right out of college, that's a large dollar expense. And training takes time from people that are helping do the training, and that productivity that kind of drops off when you're helping train somebody. And if that doesn't work, you know, it's a lot of time wasted trying to get somebody to be what you want to be. So it's important as individuals to realize we have to start caring about that now, and really figuring out how important it is for you to be exactly who you want to be, because that is that first impression part of it.
And I would say, too, listen to you strategically for people, and we encourage students to be themselves.
Absolutely.
And articulate who you are. But there's a difference between being yourselves on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and how you're portraying yourself, versus maybe Monday through Friday. And students maybe in sales roles that are trying to attract all people maybe need to fit a certain mold for the company they're working for, but you just need to find those balances, I'd say.
And it does, the jobs that you're going for and the jobs that you take or try to experience, it does have to feel comfortable to you. It has to fit you as much as you fit the company. There is a balance of the two. And there are some companies that maybe you just shouldn't go work for because they don't fit what you want. So it's both ways. Businesses need to start to pay attention to what the generations of candidates and future employees are looking for, and how to understand what generation they're in, versus you've got these old school companies that just aren't changing their ways and realizing they're not going to attract young, new, fresh ideas and new talent. So it's not just you having to change who you are or what you're doing. It's not about, you know, I wear this kind of shirt, I always button it up, it's always pressed from the dry cleaners. That's not what I mean. It is being respectful. It is being professional. It is being social. It is still being who you are, but you have to understand it's going to be paid attention to. So if there's some things that you know you're kind of pushing the edge of the envelope, or everybody knows right from wrong, it's also one of those scenarios where when you're going in for an interview and you've researched the company, you know what they're looking for. If you pay attention to the type of employees that are working there already, you know what they're looking for. So don't walk in not being what it is. And if it's not a company you want to work for, don't walk in at all.
those are some very powerful points. And just to kind of recap the 3 that jumped out at me, it's got to be a good fit.
Yeah.
You and the employer, and then also do your research ahead of time so you
Yes.
know, is it a good fit for you as well as the employer? Those phenomenal points. And breakdown, like I said, could be a controversial topic, but it is facts and it is reality to help prepare people for their careers.
It is.
Let's talk about the big one, social media.
Yep.
Students buried on their phones, pictures of everything they do, funny, not funny, appropriate, inappropriate.
Yep.
How does social media impact students in their future success with the career world?
Dramatically. It absolutely is the first thing that companies are going to look at when they grab a resume and they look it over to see if it's got some basic skill sets. But then that next thing that they're doing, they're immediately going to go on social media and do a little bit of a background check on who the person is, what platforms are they on, and start looking at some pictures and some videos and seeing a little bit behind the scenes who they are before they bring them in for an interview. Because again, like we've just recently posted a bunch of jobs. We have a ton of candidates that want to work for us. We can't interview all of them. We don't have the time. So there is a screening process that goes on based on skill sets, but it's also looking at social media to find out, is there some stuff out there that they're going to be the face of our company, no matter who it is. If you say that you work for Geneva Supply or Interstate Music and you're out there in the world on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and somebody sees you and knows where you work, you are always a representation of the company. You see it all the times in sports. You know, professional athletes are always expected to be a certain way because they're paid a lot of money and they're the face of a franchise and they're expected to be a certain way. Businesses feel the same way about their employees and team members, that they expect a respectful person to be out there representing themselves. So when you look at social media, I always say when you hit your junior year, it should happen all the time, but when you hit your junior year and you're going to start to fill out college applications or try to go get internships or job shadows, everybody's going to look at that social media. So go in, get your settings figured out, make sure that you get rid of anybody that you don't really know. I said it earlier, you don't have 2,000 friends. Nobody has 2,000 friends. So get rid of the ones that you actually don't know because you don't know who they are. There are companies out there that are creating profiles literally just to go friend people so that they can get in and see some of the pictures and the rest of it on social media. So you've got to be careful of all of it. And just the safety aspect of anybody in social media, not just kids, but adults too. You hear all the horror stories. You hear about them because they're real. So your social media is that gateway into people figuring you out a little bit, and you've got to be careful of it. So go back all the way to the beginning, check out all the pictures that you posted, all the topics, all the comments, everything that you've kind of done, and give it a once over. And I always say, look at it and say, you're the company and you're looking to hire somebody. Would you hire yourself? Would you trust you? Would you feel as though you're going to represent your company well? And that's a good self-reflection. And I think even the people that are out there doing things they shouldn't be, I think deep down they understand what they're doing that's not right versus wrong, and get that figured out. So it's a big part of maturing and growing up, and it's got to start now because this is now when everybody's going to get that summer job, internship, job shadow, college application. So now is the time to start really kind of paying attention.
Let's also talk a little bit. I know we've had conversations about this, and you touched on it too. The positive and the importance of a strong social media presence to get
Absolutely.
those jobs too. So we kind of hit on the negatives and what they shouldn't be posting out there, but we've also had those conversations about what's it like if they have no social media presence?
Yeah, it's if there's somebody that I go and look up and they are not able to be found on social media, I know, I think, I don't know clearly, but I immediately think there is some stuff out there that this person is hiding. So there is part of me that thinks social media is also a tool to kind of express yourself in a positive way, share the things that you do, share the experiences, Share the work, the job shadows, the internships, the community service that you do. Share that. Otherwise, nobody knows that you're doing it. Some people would call it bragging. I actually call it just communicating and sharing what your likes and dislikes and things are out there in the world. As you start to gain those experiences and those job shadows or internships or certifications or parts of organizations and extracurriculars, as you start to do that, you should definitely consider getting a LinkedIn profile. And that LinkedIn profile is that future career, this is what I'm defining myself to be. This is how I'm putting myself out there. And I think any employer that's out there that sees somebody that has a solid LinkedIn profile, now it doesn't have to have all these huge jobs. You can put burger flipper at such and such fast food restaurant, but if you're going to put that, explain a little bit what you got out of that job so people know that you didn't just go flip burgers. You actually were flipping burgers, but this is what you liked about the job. This is what you learned from the job. You learned commitment. You learned about customer service. You learned about the importance of cost analysis, and you had experiences talking to your manager to find out their journeys and stuff. Share some of those things in your earlier LinkedIn posts, just simply because people are going to get a chance to get to know who you are in a path that you're trying to get to.
Jeff, I'm going to make a plug to my family and my students. Research that I've done says that you should start a LinkedIn profile as early as 16 years old. And as you look at the opportunities that not only the Connect Academy at the Michlig, Norway School District provides our students in career growth, there's certifications, certificates, early college credit opportunities that would be a great fit to put on your professional portfolio. I know our students in our career internships get a youth apprenticeship certification from the state of Wisconsin, and this really starts to build you as a professional in a certain career. So I 100% am building that positive portfolio.
Absolutely.
Jeff, as we continued through, one of the things that stood out to me, and I know we're going to have some conversations through our virtual career fair with our counselors on this, but it says your education degrees are an investment. Do your research before investing. Can you talk a little more to that?
It's very expensive. Education is expensive. Outside of high school, you're going to go and you're going to put your time into it, but you're also going to put money into it. Whether it's a loan, whether it's your parents might be the ones that are paying for your education, you might be paying for part of it, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many ways to look at it, but you have to understand, no matter what it is, it's not play money. Either you're getting a full scholarship, that organization, that university, that college is investing in you, and there's a certain accountability that goes with that. If you're getting your schooling paid for by family or some other, assistance out there, again, it's their money they're investing into, and you have a responsibility to care about that. Then the flip side is, if you're going to be responsible for paying for your own education and you're taking out student loans, you've got to pay those back. No matter who you think is going to be president someday, it really does come down to, if you take out a loan, you are signing the documentation saying you are going to pay that back based on these terms, and you've agreed upon it. So you can sit there and hope that you're not going to have to pay something back, but you're going to live a long, long, long time hoping on that. So when I say it's your biggest investment, it is financially, to somebody, one of the biggest investments you're going to have. And sometimes it's equal to your first home. And the amount of time and effort that anybody puts into researching their first investment of their home, and we're sitting here looking at going to college and, oh, I really like the campus. It's like, yeah, that's important, but is that really 4 years, 5 years of your life spending those dollars every single year, whether it's on a loan or whatever? it can't just be about liking the campus or, boy, they've got a really good sports program and the football games. I went there on a Saturday and, oh my gosh, it was electric. It was so fun. I want to be part of that. Or, boy, they live in, it's in such a great city. You know, the social life is great. And we get hung up, I think, sometimes. And sometimes parents even say, I really want them to feel comfortable where they're going to school because they're going to be away from home for the first time. I get all that, but I think we all have to have a little self-realization of what that investment is, and there's a whole lot of different ways to get your gen eds classes taken care of. Maybe you go to a community college or a tech school that's local that can transfer credit. Be fiscally responsible for your decision as much as you're going to have to be in the future, because that time that you're putting into it is going to help you get that career and that first job that you want. That's going to get you to a place that you can afford to pay the loans off that you signed on the dotted line when you were 17, 18 years old with your parents.
And I just love how you're framing that picture like it is an investment.
It is.
Make sure you do the right investment, like any other way you'd invest your money. So
Right.
Great point.
Well, and I think the other side of it is it's okay to get into that investment and maybe that school, and a year or 2 years into it, realize, oh, this wasn't the right investment. It's very much like, oh, I'm going to pull my money out of this investment and I'm going to put it somewhere else. You can look at your education in the same way. If it's not a fit, it is okay to admit that that wasn't the right decision. At the time you made it, you thought it was. The reasons you made it, you thought it was. It is okay to transfer from one school to another. It happens all the time. Kids get so stressed out about, are all my credits going to transfer? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? And if you're unsure that you're nailing your decision, start looking at the school that you're choosing and how do those credits transfer, or start picking classes in that first year that are more likely to transfer because you're committing to something and you're trying it, but you're not positive on it. Because how are we supposed to be positive about that decision out of the gate? We've never lived there. We've never gone there. We might never have, lived away from home at that time. So there is a lot going on in that student's life that could change in that first year. Maybe they thought they could go further away from home for school, and then they realized it's not comfortable for them. It is okay to get in that situation and pivot. And I think it's important for us to realize that we all make bad investments, but it's being smart enough to pull that investment and put it somewhere else that's more positive.
So, Jeff, one thing I want to talk about, you hit on just a little bit, and I just think it is an amazing opportunity for students. Creator of BizTank. Mm-hmm. Talk a little more about BizTank.
So BizTank came about because as a business owner, and I would say somebody that has gone through a lot of different career paths and different experiences, I started to look at what these kids are up against. We had an internship program, and I see some of the challenges and the struggles. And I've always found myself actually talking to kids, asking them, how'd you like this? What are you thinking about wanting to try, and all this? And I start to realize that career exploration is not easy for a student to have while in high school. And because of curriculums and kind of the set structures within education, it's not easy for teachers and high schools to give those experiences to students either. So I looked at it as an opportunity through all the connections in various careers and industries that I had to create a nonprofit program called BizTank, which is all about career exploration. And I look at career exploration not just about having to go do a job shadow or an internship, but learning about career paths through other people's journeys. And it's amazing when you start to listen to people that have gotten to where they are and where their head was when they were in high school, and what they thought they were going to be, why did they go to college, why didn't they go to college, and what college did they pick and why, and all of those things that the kids are stressing about, hearing that everybody goes through this stress and hearing people changing their major in college and getting a finance degree but ending up in education and realizing that this $150,000 a year job was stressful and not what they thought it was going to be, and then they take a $70,000 a year job because it was something that felt right for them and made them feel as though they were of value. And hearing those paths and those journeys of others is really important for students to hear and for them to start to relate to and be able to have a chance to ask questions to people in all these different careers and journeys through the time, because you've got all of these different just segments of their life that they've gone through. And I think we're as people that as adults that have gone through life, our life is that chance to give and share with students for them to understand it's not all on them, and the more we share with them. And that's what BizTank is all about. I bring speakers in from all over the country in every different career you can imagine, people that I have never even met. This upcoming season, I've got the founder and CEO of Hint Water. And I believe she's out of California. I reached out to her on LinkedIn and I just simply said, hey, this is this program. You've had this journey. You decided to, start a company. What made you change from this, put all this investment in to do this in the beverage industry, which is so difficult? And she is now going to be a speaker for BizTank. And it's because they realize what they went through and what they could share to give kids kind of a look into that type of path. And I think that's where it's great to have that as a tool for students. And I really appreciate and hope that high schools throughout the community share the BizTank story and journey and what that opportunity means, because it is outside of the school. It is outside the curriculum, and those kids get that opportunity to do it. And I'm not just looking for A students. I'm looking for every single student that is looking to try to figure things out for themselves. And it is this opportunity for them to do exactly that.
So, and we talked a little bit about this program. How would students get involved in this program if interested?
So if you go to biztanknonprofit.org, you're going to be able, or all of the social media platforms that we're out on, you're going to be able to see what the program is, some past speakers, and you're going to be able to register for the upcoming spring season that starts on April 7th. And it's because of the whole COVID situation, we are virtual. So everything is through Zoom webinar. So in the comforts of your home, I'm going to bring in these speakers, and it's a live open forum. And I'm going to be asking questions very similar to kind of how we're talking about things right now, but all the students from wherever they are across the country are going to be able to send questions in, go through a moderator, and we'll ask those questions for them. And they're going to get a chance to hear stories and journeys of other people from all over the country. Once we get to go live again, hopefully this upcoming fall, we'll actually be able to have kids live in the event spaces that we have and have some of the speakers be able to come in and be live here and give the kids a chance to go out there and feel as though they're taking steps for themselves for what their future looks like.
Is there a spot still for the April sessions via Zoom?
They're unlimited. The one thing that is nice about the virtual side of it is we can have 17,000 kids from across the country watching it. When we go live, we do have it. It is a scholarship-based program, so you get scholarship dollars for coming and staying throughout the entire season towards continuing education after you graduate. But for the virtual side of it, it is open, and it's open to students, high school students, college students, parents, teachers, because we can all kind of learn and be able to ask our kids questions afterwards. What'd you think about that type of thing? So it's much more of an open forum. Even when we do go back live with kids able to be here in person, we will be capping out between 75 and 100 kids for the live sessions for the scholarship portion, but we're still going to stream it live. So the virtual thing definitely did open that up. So the virtual side will be open for any parents, kids of all ages across the country for them to still participate.
And I'm going to make a quick plug to our students and our families. This goes right back what Jeff talked about earlier with that networking with owners and people that have companies that are willing to talk to you to help guide you. This is a phenomenal opportunity, phenomenal program. If you can take advantage of it virtually this upcoming spring here or even next fall, do it, and then really do look into it because like Jeff said, this is a scholarship opportunity for participation. To me, so I get knowledge and I get money. I couldn't ask for anything else.
Well, and I think the funny thing is every year I will get past speakers that will reach out and message me and say, hey, it looks like BizTank started up again. Because as I start talking about networking and building that LinkedIn profile during the BizTank seasons, the kids start building their profile, and then they go back to all the past speakers that we've ever had, and they start trying to connect to them. And all the speakers know that if they see that they're a biz kid on their LinkedIn profile, that they're going to connect with them. They are part of the BizTank family from here on out. So it is an open door for all past speakers that they're going to connect with you. And if you do have questions for all the different past careers, because all of those speakers' videos are up there for you to stream in class, for the kids to watch. So it's not just having to move forward with the speakers that we have. You get to go back and see what we have had in the past as well.
You got me sold, Jeff. I want to sign up.
Good stuff.